welcome to Indie Game Dev Report, a podcast for people who can't get enough of indie game news. And we've got an awesome interview lined up with Evil Games. Evil Villain Games. It's not Evil Games, but Evil Villain Games. And they're working on Raven's Path, which is actually a lot of fun. It's a mobile title, but it's a lot of fun. Even if you're not into mobile games, you might want to take a look at this. It's really cool. We'll get really in-depth with it, and you'll learn a whole lot about it. I do want to go over some news real quick here. Obviously, unless you're living under a rock, you've probably heard that GDC is officially postponed until summer. Officials for the Game Developers Conference have confirmed that the show is canceled for now after many major game publishers abandoned plans to attend the show as worries over the spread of the coronavirus mount. GDC has been forced to postpone the show until later in the year. It looks like in the past week, a bunch of companies dropped out. It looks like Activision, Blizzard, Microsoft, Epic, Sony, Unity, Amazon Games, Facebook, which is Oculus, Kojima Productions, and EA all dropped out, as well as, publications like Game Informer and Polygon also say that they're skipping the show. So that essentially ended it right there. The big guys are pretty much running the show, apparently. And there's a lot of people scrambling to make things work. And I feel really bad for everyone that got kind of screwed on this because it's a huge investment, as you may know. And there's a lot of people that have non-refundable stuff. So look out for links and help. I'm sure there's tons out there. Just do a quick search. I've seen a ton floating around Twitter. So if you're in that boat, definitely look for some help. Maybe you can find something. Or if you're planning on attending the events surrounding the area, there may be still things going on. For example, I don't think they're canceling the Killer Queen tournament that takes place the same time of year. I think some people are still going to that. But that's a totally different thing. I'm just saying there's still other things to do in the area if you're stuck going there and can't attend the conference. You could still have a fun time in San Francisco. Okay, so getting that big news out of the way, let's get over some little stuff because, I don't really care so much about the big guys because they do stuff like that. Pull out of big conferences that the little guys all have to invest in. Anyways, so looking at some releases and stuff here, we've got a follower of the Indie Game Dev Report podcast, Brandon Green Hooks, at Zero Folio, that's Camel Case, at Twitter. Give him a follow. He's got a hot update. His game Sunburnt is officially available on Steam and currently on sale, it looks like. Cool, too. And it looks like he wants to give a shout out to Adventure Mountain, which is actually Chris Zukowski, a friend of mine. You might have seen his talks on GDC and stuff like that, or at GDC. And it looks like he wants to thank everyone at IGDA Phoenix as well, which I'm actually part of. So yeah, thank you for making a fun game. Okay, so onward from there, we've got Antler Studio Kickstarter. They were doing great. They're doing awesome. And then they got it. They totally funded, and that's great. They got over £30,000 and 419 backers so far. So congrats to them. It's a super cool project. Check it out if you haven't. It's a 3D first-person puzzle platformer. Very cool. And earlier in the month, Death and Taxes released, which congrats to them as well. I'm sure they did an amazing job on release. I'm sure the game performed well. I'm hoping to have them on for an interview, and we can discuss how things went and their plans and how things worked so well for them and what things they really focused on and what things kind of fell into place and all that stuff. So we'll definitely hear from them, and I can't wait to hear from them. Yeah. All right. So Codename Malo now has an itch page. They were on the first episode, or Derek, I should say, was on the first episode with the interview about that game, and it's a lot of fun. And if you haven't checked it out, go check it out. Okay, and it looks like Radio Brush has a really cool new YouTube video that's capital R Radio Brush, one word. Very cool, showing off people playing indie games. I love to see it. Love to see it. So just keep that stuff coming, Radio Rush. Great work. And then we got Skull Commando Labs and Pirate Games doing it again. They got something cool. It's a new retro inspired 2D Game Boy style game this time. I don't know how they're getting them out this quick or what they're doing, but it looks really cool. Great work, guys. And then Raven's Path by Evil Villain Games have a release date, May 5th, and that's who I'm interviewing today, so we'll go way into that. News with me, everything's the usual. Work is insane. The game is coming along, but slower than I'd like, so I took a couple days off of work to make up for it. Just kind of like took a whole day just to stretch my back out and feel normal again, because work is insane. So yeah, fingers crossed on an update in the near future. I know that you've been extremely patient already, and I'm really sorry that I don't have it out yet. Usually I try to get it out on Saturdays, and this is like the third Saturday that I don't have an update out. So I'm really sorry. But the game is coming along. I fixed a major bug with the bullet consistency today. And I made a post about that on Twitter if you didn't see it. And I fixed the bug that came out of it that is also in the post. So yeah, that's coming along. So recently, the game Retro Spaceball, if you're not following it at all, has a it's actually reached a certain like threshold of popularity on the itch, which is its major platform right now, because I don't have a Steam page yet. I do plan on getting one up soon here. But yeah, so it reached this like threshold of popularity where now it's actually getting viewed on the, if you search for a web game, it pops up not at the very top, but somewhere nearish the top, which is amazing. Like so amazing. I can't tell you how much. Like so basically for the last like 5 days, it's been getting on average of like 40 views, and most of those are translating into browser plays, and then a few of those each day are translating into downloads. Which is really great because these are people that are searching for a game to play on the web browser, and a few of them are turning around and saying, I'd like to download this, which is what I'm hoping for, because there are some problems with the web game. I don't know if you're familiar with building on web, but essentially you're relying on not only the end user's computer, but also their browser and the connection. So now there's 3 variables instead of just the one. And even though the game is made to work on slower computers, when you add a browser and a not so great internet connection on top of it, it no longer works well on a slower computer. So what happens is the ship ends up getting stuck in the walls. And I'm working on mitigating that and trying to optimize it as best I can to continue to keep a web build up. But the reality is that the final release will not have a web build. So that's one thing I have to keep in mind. But yeah, so that's what's been going on with that. Super cool to go from 3 or 4 views a day to 40 views a day. So very, very excited about that. And also I mentioned that I was talking to a person for marketing help, and it looks like they're on board with the project. So that's very cool. The ball's rolling for that, and we'll see how that goes. But enough information about me and other people. Let's talk about Raven's Path. It's a super cool game, and I can't wait to bring on these next guests. So we'll just go ahead and jump right into it. Thanks so much for listening, and enjoy the interview. Okay, so I want to bring on my guests. They're working on Raven's Path. We've got Evil Villain Games here. We've got Carell and Shane. If you guys want to introduce yourselves, Shane, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I'm Shane Denhart. I'm the programmer and background artist on Raven's Path, which is coming out on May 5th.
Okay, cool. And Carell?
Yeah, I'm Carell. I generally made the unit artwork and general artwork here and there, however it's needed, and helped out with basically designs and setups with the game. And yeah.
Cool. So, and how did you guys meet?
So we actually met in middle school.
Oh yeah. So wow. Yeah, I moved in like the last year of middle school, and we just kind of met. I actually think Shane was doing parkour or something like that, and I wanted to learn how to like wall run.
Wow.
Yeah.
So through physical activities outside of game development.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was kind of just random. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
We had some art classes together in high school. So that's when we started kind of, creating stuff in the same space, and that's probably why we ended up working together eventually.
Right on.
Yeah, in high
And
school,
so is it? What was that? I'm sorry.
No, yeah, in high school we really actually ended up working a lot more on like more detailed pieces, and we just kind of like I don't know, we ended up realizing we had a slightly similar art style than some other artists in
Oh.
more ways than not. Yeah.
And could you go a little bit deeper, explain that, like the art style in particular?
Well, I guess just kind of the way I worked was more so messier than very precise.
Mm.
And Shane had a similar approach. He used a lot of charcoals and things of that sort. From what I remember, and I leaned a bit more towards straight painting and clay work. But we just kind of ended up making I don't know. We just had the styles were not as vastly different as some others I'd seen because I had tried to work. I've tried to work with a few artists to make collaboration pieces, and sometimes it's difficult making something work together when like when someone is just very precise and works very cleanly in the lines versus when someone's a lot more I want to say messy, but really just like there's just a different type of creativity. So sometimes it
Sure.
doesn't always mix quite the way.
Yeah, I would say we had a lot of dark art too in high school. I mean, Raven's Path is not particularly dark looking. I think there's a satirical theme to the whole thing. I think it has a dark subject. I mean, it's war, so but it's kind of cartoony.
That's kind of the beauty of pixel art in a way, that you can have violent subject matter and it's still cartoony and therefore not really violent. It's mild at that point.
Yeah. So I think we
Yeah.
share that darker art style. A lot of our stuff was also black and white. We both did a lot of black and white artwork.
So
That's true.
Yeah, I love charcoal myself. When I was in art school, I used a lot of charcoal.
It's great stuff. I mean, you can get really good results quickly, I think.
Yeah. One method I really enjoyed was actually using a dry brush with powdered vine charcoal. To get and use like a neutral ground, and then I used a chamois, like a leather chamois, to pull away from the neutral ground and stuff like that to get the highlights and varying densities of charcoal and stuff like that. Good stuff. I love charcoal.
Yeah.
Of course, if you use it too much, you get the black boogers, right?
Yeah, it took a lot of sealing. It was always a little too much for me, but you could get some really impressive pieces out of it.
When you say sealing, you mean like sealing after you're done with the piece?
Yeah, like after you're done with it, so it doesn't get like mushy or like smudged. Charcoal, it's very touchy after you finish, in my opinion. So you have to make sure it's like sealed on top.
For me,
otherwise it could just get smudged.
I always use a bridge when I was drawing to prevent like smudging. But then after I was done, I was always just super afraid to spray it with any fixative because I was so worried that the contrast was going to get ruined because it always changes it. It always changes the contrast.
It does. It does change it a lot. You're absolutely right.
So I just kept it in a folder and just never touched it. I still have them.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, with sealing, you usually have to rework it a little on top. Sometimes you can do multiple seals.
Yeah. Well, I feel like once you have the first one, it wouldn't be as like, I don't know, scary.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, let's move on back to the game so much. I mean, obviously, art is great, fine art or digital art. And I'm sure you moved into digital art probably during high school or soon after. What led you to pixel art for Raven's Path particularly?
Well, so our design early on for Raven's Path was pretty large. We knew it was large. We actually cut it down by a factor of 10 almost immediately.
Yeah.
And we wanted to be able to create a lot of units, a lot of art, basically. And we weren't super familiar with pixel art. I think a lot of people think, this will be a little quicker. It's a little bit more restricted, right? There's less room for error. If you need to clean something up, you can literally clean up every single pixel.
Mhm.
But along the way, we got pickier and pickier about it, and I think we ended up spending just as much time as we probably would have with any other type of artwork. And pixel art it's a full art style. It's if you really take it seriously, you're gonna spend just as much time as any 2D animation. So yeah, I guess we were there for simplicity, but we ended up making it complicated anyway. Which
Yeah, we definitely did that. I mean, both of us, since both of us were artists, we wanted to kind of take whatever we could a little farther, and so we just kind of applied that here and there wherever we could, and we tried to make bigger, more impressive pieces. And I think partially because we both had art experience, we ended up kind of not wanting to cut as many corners with the pixel art, where we really could have simplified a lot of the animations, a lot of the detail, a lot of the depths of units and things like that. We just kind of chose to do slightly more impressive, slightly more frames, more detail.
Cool. So have you done pixel art before then, I take it, either of you?
I think
no.
Shane did. Didn't you?
No, I haven't done. Yeah, I don't think I've ever really tried to make a pixel art piece before this.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I think at most because I remember when we were younger, he worked with a few things where he adjusted existing sprites. I didn't actually. I had to learn pixel art from the ground up. My experience was in 3D, making sculptures. I actually made chess pieces, which were like 32 individual images. I mean, individual personalities, which I think helped me just kind of do unit artwork. But
Wow, yeah.
I really hadn't made pixel art before. And to be honest, yeah, I mean, it was weird. Like I had to kind of relearn a lot of things that I was already strong in a different perspective. But it was really useful to get forced into certain limitations. Because pixel art, you have to follow certain rules, otherwise it can look muddy or it doesn't quite hit
Right.
the look. So it was nice being forced into limitations, but for me also it was something new.
Yeah, so I noticed that your game doesn't follow too much of like a color limitation, but I definitely know what you mean by the limitations. And I'm working on a pixel art game as well, and I'm not really letting too many of the limitations kind of like come in. But I have a good understanding of color theory, and as I can tell, you both probably do as well. But yeah, when you're just starting out with art in general, it's hard to just jump into something without following all of the rules, and then learning which ones you can break is kind of necessity.
Right, exactly. You kind of have to get to the rule breaking.
No, and I like what you guys are doing, and I like some of the stuff where they don't break the rules as well. The stuff that's like it would fit on an NES cartridge type thing, but
for sure, yeah.
That's really hard to do that type of limiting stuff.
We definitely talked a little bit about like actual 8-bit, 16-bit, or like $5 stuff, but we kind of chose to. We were gonna at some point. We actually had like HD fog rolling through some of the maps and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So that was a little. I think we decided that was a little too.
Yeah, and sometimes stuff like that works with the pixel art, and sometimes it doesn't. It's really going to depend on the game and the audience and all of that. But yeah, I like what you guys are doing. The choices you guys are making with Raven's Path, I think it's really well done. It's a lot of fun to play. Yeah, we should talk a little bit more about the gameplay because it's extremely unique. And let me try to describe it because I did have some fun in the beta playing it, but I want your opinion of my description here. So it's a little bit like Tetris in my mind, where the pieces are coming down, but the pieces are just single blocks of NPC. Basically, they're just enemies that are characters, much like the characters in your army, and as they come down, you arrange your troops to fight off the troops that are coming down, and it's almost like a puzzle game in a lot of ways, but it's also about building up your troops or your party, and it has a lot of RPG aspects in that respect. And then also the whole arena is like a tactics board, right?
Right. Yeah. No, that's almost like exactly the description we started with. I when I'm talking to people one-on-one, I often use Tetris as a way to describe it. But when we submitted to Google Play, they didn't let us use the word Tetris in our description.
I can see that. I mean, that's a
Copyright
little
stuff,
surprising, but at the same time, it's not too surprising because they probably get that all the time.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah.
So, yeah, we're currently describing it as the fastest tactical RPG ever to get people interested.
I could definitely agree with that statement for sure because it's not super fast, but compared to every other tactics game out there, it's much faster because it's not turn based. I mean, there is like a turn system, but you're not required to move every turn.
Right. Yeah. Well, the enemies definitely have a turn-based walking cycle.
Right.
And then everybody has an attack speed, so that's sort of like a turn-based thing. But there are a few things
real time as far as the input goes.
Right. Oh yeah. And actually, the build that's coming out on May 5th has a sliding system now. So there's instead of flicking per block, you can actually move people, 10 blocks at a time.
Yeah, directly to where you want to slide them to.
Does it swap it then with a character that's like 3 or 4 blocks away?
So it still swaps a similar way.
Okay.
It's not like a drag and drop system, so you're still colliding with enemies and stuff. If you want to, for people who don't know the game, battering ram is a unit you can actually just slam into other units, and you can drag that all around the screen and bump it into different things without letting go. So
yeah, and there's like tons of power ups. There's like, I mean, how many different menus are there? There's like 5 or so, right? 5 or so menus of different upgrades that you can have.
Yeah, there's a lot. The menu work is something it took us a long time.
But it's really intuitive.
You think so? Yeah.
I think so.
I'm really happy with the way the drag and drop stuff worked out in a lot of places. So I'm glad you think it's intuitive.
It's a little hard to remember what all the power-ups do. I remember that there's like a village that you can like build up, which is like your kingdom, kind of, right?
Yeah.
And then there's power-ups where you can level up like you as a party leader almost, and it affects the whole party. And then one where you just power up individual party members. And then there's another where you can equip different party members in your party that you have in your like kingdom, I guess. And then a whole nother one where you can equip each member's items, right? I think that covers all of them.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
It's about right.
I'm probably missing one.
No, I think that's about it. I mean, it's
maybe sort of the town. You can use the town to teach a unit's strengths to another unit. I think that's about maybe the only overlap. But yeah, that's about it. Because there's a global one. There's a town which allows you to do a few things. I think we have like 5 or 6 buildings in there that you can use to make stronger weapons and stronger units. And you can teach or equip units to have their different abilities. And we actually really wanted to allow you to shuffle the abilities quite a bit. And then the root, like if a unit is an infantry, it still holds infantry strengths that you level up through your global strengths.
Nice. Cool. And May 5th is the date.
Yes, May 5th, so a couple months.
And what kind of price are we looking at? Is it a premium price model for this game, or is it in-app purchases? Or
so price is something we haven't announced yet, but I'm totally down to announce it right now.
I mean, that's completely up to you.
So we're going with a sort of a demo. It's about 16 battles right now. That's tentative, but
okay.
And then there's going to be a one-time purchase sort of in the middle. It's not in the middle. It's really in the very first portion of the game after the 16 battles, and it's going to be $5 one-time purchase. There's no microtransactions, no in-app purchases, and it gives you the whole game. yeah, it's
Then how many battles are in the whole game? About.
So that depends a lot on how you play.
Yeah.
It'd be pretty hard to get to. I mean, the furthest you could possibly get in 16 battles is about the end of Act 4.
Okay.
But that would be really hard. So that's without playing any side missions at all. So yeah, the game is about. I'll put it like this: the game's over. It's 25 plus hours, probably 24 hours if you're playing straight through and you play perfectly.
Wow. Well, that's definitely worth. What did you say? $5.99.
It's $5, so $4.99 actually.
$4.99, yeah.
Yeah, to be
cool.
accurate.
Yeah.
And then the demo is half an hour to an hour, depending on how you play. So yeah, there's a lot left there.
Yeah, that's awesome, and that's a great size for a demo too. Because I mean, if you're giving away a free game and it's more than an hour, I mean that's you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. It seems like because you're giving something away that's worth value at that point.
Right.
But a demo is great because it'll get people hooked, and it's definitely a hooking game from what I've seen. I don't really play a whole lot of mobile games, to be honest, but when I find one that I like, it definitely has the ability to sink its teeth in me, and your game has been able to do that. And like I said, it's not very often that it happens, so I think that it's got some legs perhaps here. So
that's good. Yeah,
it's definitely good.
The demo is also it is a bit of a strange demo. It's not as tied down. It is actually the full game with just a wall at 16 battles, so you get to experience a little bit of everything.
Cool, I like that because then you know exactly what you're getting into. There's not any hidden mechanics that you don't understand or that aren't fun, things of that nature.
Oh yeah.
I think that's a great way to do a demo.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about why. Well, there's two things that I want to talk about, and I'll let you guys decide which we talk about first. Basically, the art style is really cool because it scrolls, right? And that's really awesome, and it makes sense in the gameplay. But then, how did you guys come up with the gameplay? And maybe those two questions kind of tie in together.
Yeah, they definitely do. Because we're both artists, but we definitely prioritize the gameplay in this particular project more than anything, and we sort of set up what we thought would feel really good and would be fun to do with a touchscreen and a sliding mechanic and some sort of combat that would be satisfying. But we sort of then had the art style. We sort of made up an art style that would fit into that sort of mold, which is something that has its benefits, but it also has its costs. Which like we did prioritize gameplay, so it feels really good. There's a nice, satisfying loop. Things really interact. Basically, the whole screen is used as a gameplay space, but that limited the artwork in some areas. And we actually had to sort of figure out where to put sky, so that you could sort of feel like the world was a little more open, because the bulk of what you're looking at is sort of your units on the ground, and when you look at nothing but ground, I don't know, it just sort of makes you feel more closed. So we had to figure out how to find a spot for the sky, so you could have something more bright at a point.
No, I can totally see that because I've seen the game before. Can you try to explain how the art works to viewers who maybe haven't seen the game yet?
Yeah. So
yeah, go ahead, Shane.
Yeah. So it's a top-down pixel art game. It's got scrolling backgrounds, so the backgrounds all repeat infinitely, and in between, whenever we change backgrounds, there's a piece of art. Usually it's like could be a rock or a bunch of trees, or there's actually a case where it's a bunch of gold. And that stitches together the backgrounds. So your characters are constantly moving across these repeating backgrounds. And then we decided to, in the menus, just have a bunch of landscapes with a lot of sky and clouds and totally different perspective. So yeah.
And you say that they're looping backgrounds, but they're really big loops.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and like you're not really justifying it, or you're not saying it right. I mean, they're really really big pieces of art, and they're kind of detailed for being a background, and it feels like the players are walking on it, and it's a constant vertical movement. It's not so just like a background loop and it's just there because there's something there. It actually makes it feel like there's a ground that you're playing on.
Yeah.
And then this kind of square just kind of fits in there, and that's your UI area where your playing field is. I think it's really cool, and I could see where you're talking about how it would be hard to fit the sky in there. And I'm not sure if I've seen how you approached that, but I feel like there was a GIF when when the beta ended, and you put this really beautiful GIF out where like it kept on scrolling past the ground, and then the sky was there. Is that
trailer.
kind of
that's
that
in the
looks
trailer.
really great.
So I mean, yeah, we basically I think what Kirill was getting at is that we basically hint that the sky is there the whole time. There's no. I wish there was a point like that in the game, but there are obviously in the menus. There's
so I think that's a great idea though, to hint at the sky since it's not in the gameplay, but also the gameplay style, like the top down. I mean that goes back pretty far. If you look at computer games and early Nintendo games and stuff, a lot of them did not have sky in them at all. So it's nice that you're using that style, but still finding a place to put the sky in there. And it does help with the immersion, I think, with the sky.
It's nice to see a sun sometime. A cloud or two.
Yeah. So what kind of games would you say helped inspire this one or influenced you as developers?
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I mean,
you can be vague if you need to.
So we definitely looked at. We both played Final Fantasy Tactics. We both played Disgaea. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
I'm unfamiliar with that one. I know of Tactics, but I don't know. You said Disgaea?
Disgaea.
It's Disgaea. Yeah, it's a bit less known, but it's a really deep tactics game that works a lot like basically Final Fantasy Tactics, except it's a little more free with what you can do with your units. Like you can basically rebirth them with higher or more adjusted base stats so that they level up again, and it sort of lets you like loop things in a very, very infinite way.
Wow.
And this game really did a crazy job with like the amount of gameplay it put on your plate. Like I'm pretty sure we played it for like 500 hours, and I didn't even see all of it.
Wow.
Unlike Tactics, which was very like story based and like there was a very clear ending at which you sort of ran out. Still a lot of gameplay. It was
very linear as far as the story was.
More, yeah. With this,
and this was more of an endless game.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it really was. You could go into items and level up the items, and like they had a whole like world that you sort of cycled around. So they did a really good job with like the infinite replayability sort of thing.
Was it a little bit like the roguelites that are coming out these days?
No. It's more like an old school JRPG where they used to have like Disgaea characters. You have 10 characters in an army. They can each get up to 9,999 level.
Okay.
And like Kirill said, you can also reincarnate them once they get to that point. So the next time you go around, they'll be actually a higher stats than last time they were.
Like a tier stronger. That's pretty cool. And then how was the gameplay in that one? Since it was an old school game, right? It was like a classic game.
Yeah, I mean,
it was grid based. Yeah,
similar to Tactics, I would say. I don't know if there's something that really influenced I mean, I think a large part of it is we both really like playing those games. I personally really don't like waiting in those games. So that's there
was a lot of loading in Tactics.
Yeah, taking turns. I mean, you sacrifice a lot of the strategy, like thinking things out and stuff when you go real time, but I think you get a lot of other benefits out of it, like it's more exciting, and the spatial stuff becomes more important, and what you're paying attention to becomes a lot more important.
Yeah, there's a lot more pinch moments where you have to make a decision, and you always give up a few other decisions, so you end up like I've seen a few people play, and they kind of sometimes get these moments where it's like, oh my god, I might lose, like let me just rush, and they end up like positioning things how they can. So it allows for those moments to happen more often. So when we put a slightly harder challenge in front of the player, they can kind of feel that like, oh my god, I barely squeaked through. And it's a good feeling when you can get that.
Right. Sometimes you have to get your healing mage out there in battle so your warrior doesn't die at the last second, right?
You gotta risk more, yeah.
Exactly.
Cool,
But
cool.
but the influence for me at least was the army building. I really enjoyed how you could sort of customize the army that you wanted, and you could play with like way more healers, way more mages, way more infantry. And I think that we tried to put a lot of detailed army building in Raven's Path, where the way that it rewards you units, you actually would be hard pressed to be able to ever play the same way twice. Like anytime you restart the game, you basically get a knight and a healer, but everything else is more or less randomized to a point. And the decisions you make every time you want to level yourself up, you have to sacrifice your own units. So you immediately start basically filtering what you have available in the way you make decisions. So it ends up really in a very different place every time. Um, it's almost very difficult to do the same playthrough because you just simply
Yeah.
don't have the same resources.
And it seems like a great way to get replayability out of it because it's kind of exciting to play it a different way. Like I think the way that I've been playing it, my main guy has like 2 axes and he's doing really good, but I've only got
Oh
like
yeah,
2 healers and I'm kind of lacking in that respect. Where like they're moving around the whole time, it's a lot of work.
Right. You have the more aggressive approach, which can be very fun. I've definitely played a lot of different ways over the 4 years or so we've
yeah.
been developing.
And what's
I
what's great
mean,
about it is
yeah.
that it's really in depth, and it really is. It has a ton of depth to it. But when you first start, it's not given to you all at once because that would be overwhelming for anyone,
Yeah,
even someone who's ready for the depth. I think
Right.
the
we
way
Yeah.
that
actually even
you,
reduced that. We even
yeah,
reduced
Yeah.
that some more on the latest update because there is a lot, and we wanted to layer it a little bit slower. Um,
yeah, no, the onboarding and the ramping, I felt was done pretty well. I mean, I could see where it could be improved. So maybe that's what you're talking about, where you've improved it. But it's even in the beta when I was playing it, I thought you did a great job of ramping the
Thank
difficulty
you.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, thanks. I mean, we ramped it a little bit more, so we cut off a couple menus in the beginning until you
Mm-hmm.
can actually have resources to use them. Um, we've actually taken there's a starting pack that really like had a ton of trouble with onboarding
Okay.
because it's just huge. It's the biggest reward you get in the game. It's right at the beginning. So that's
Just too
actually,
much, too
yeah.
soon.
We replaced
Yeah,
that. You still get it, but we replaced the actual reward portion with a explanation of what rewards are and when you get them.
Cool. Yeah, I mean that makes
Yeah.
more sense. And were you getting great feedback during the beta? I mean, I know I didn't really provide too much besides like, hey, you guys are making something that's awesome, and I support it.
oh, we definitely did. Yeah, no,
Good,
absolutely. I
good.
mean, we did get a lot of good feedback, and I think a few really positive things that came out of the beta were, I mean, we used to have a permadeath mechanic.
Ah,
That was something huge. Like before the beta, we literally had every single one of your units get hurt. So if they fall in the battle, they basically become marked for death. And if they need
hmm.
to win, they had to win like 3, 4, I think it was 3 fights, and then they
Yeah.
healed. So that mechanic didn't really play out well with it didn't do what it was supposed to do in both cases, which is an experienced player or a new player. Like new players, if it happened, it was kind of a pain, and they didn't
Hmm.
quite always understand what the benefit was. And experienced players were just simply able to avoid it outright, so they didn't really deal with it. So it just didn't quite do much. And I'm not sure how we ended up on the decision to do this, but we actually split the game into not really split. We literally just took the death mechanic and put it into a hardcore mode.
Hmm.
Um, so you
I think
can
that's a
replay
great
the
idea.
game. Yeah, so we ended up having a mode where there is no death. You can simply take risks and try as hard as you can, and if you get by a fight with just one live unit, you've won. And then we have the hardcore mode, which rewards you with a lot more things up front. Like you got a lot more rare units, a lot more rare items, but they will be lost. You know, if anything dies, it dies. So it really kind of puts you on edge. And it felt good. It felt substantially better than what we had before. We sort of just didn't quite do what it was supposed to in all cases.
I could see how that could benefit other games as well. I think that's a really good method because sometimes people want a challenge and sometimes people want accessibility, and you want both to be happy, right?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. No, we don't want to turn. Yeah, I think Curl described it perfectly. We don't want to turn away people who just want to play it casually, and we also, don't want to bother people who know how to avoid it and are actually looking for a challenge. I mean, the hardcore mode doesn't have injury either, so it's actually a lot harder than it was previously. So
it's outright death. Yeah, like you just simply lose the unit and everything that it had on it. So you really
I kind of like that idea better, to be honest.
Yeah,
yeah, but like
it's cleaner, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's less like messing around there.
So, what are you guys planning on doing after launch? Do you have another project in the works? I mean, I'm sure you're going to be doing the launch for after launch and maybe do some updates or something. But just what kind of ideas are on the table as far as the evil games or evil villain games, right? As far as that goes.
Yeah, so we're definitely planning on supporting Raven's Path for a while. We have a few things we want to do to the end in terms of giving people more end game content and making it playable for even longer. Which it's already a very long game, but once you get to the end, you're gonna see, there's a lot more that we have on the table here. So, but yeah, we've got we're prototyping a few things too.
Cool.
In the background. So you'll be seeing some new fun gifts at some point soon after launch, I'm sure.
I'm excited, definitely. Are you thinking about, I mean, you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but are you thinking about going away from mobile or staying with mobile, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, depending on what we prototype, we're most likely, if able to, we might still go with mobile, but we do want to experiment a bit more with PC and just things that are more accessible for just more markets. There were a lot of bizarre limitations with mobile that we kind of didn't look at as closely as we could have when we started, but now that we're publishing, it would just be nice to have access to more platforms, and it would just be more, you just simply want to have what you make just be able to reach more hands. So yeah, what we're thinking of is a little more accessible to all platforms.
And have you thought about possibly porting Raven's Path to PC, since it is like premium priced?
Yeah, so that's a definite possibility, and that'll be probably much further along time wise.
Sure.
But yeah,
I mean, that could go over great, especially if you're already building a community. By the time you get to that point, you might have a community that could help with even a Kickstarter or something.
Right, exactly. And we do plan on supporting the community that's built too. So PC launch will be good for everybody who owns the game.
And I'm sure any prototypes you build will be great for the community too, because I'm sure they're interested in anything that you'd be working on, especially if it's as cool as Raven's Path.
Absolutely, yeah. We also want to make sure that people who spend that $5 feel like they're getting a lot. So.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've seen your Discord. It's not small. It's definitely a good medium-sized Discord for an indie game developer. I mean, you're obviously spending a lot of effort on that while building the game. So how many people are on your team exactly?
So it's mostly me and Kirill. We have a guy doing music who, he's done a really good job with the music and the sound. We're really happy with that. And I think he's interested in being more full time. But it's tough.
Oh yeah.
With finances and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Now, are you both working part time then?
I have been on and off, so it's been 4 years making this, and I want to say more than half of that I worked a day job where I just kind of like worked it in the day and came home and then made artwork and animated. Yeah, so that's kind of been, that's what it is. You sort of have to do that if you want to start something insane or something.
Oh, absolutely.
I guess.
Yeah, and I've been working full time. So
full time on the project or on something else?
No, full time on Raven's Path. So.
On Raven's Path. Okay, so that brings up the question: how are you affording things while you're working full time on the game?
So yeah, I mean, I live with my parents.
That helps. Okay.
And, yeah, it's.
I'm sure you're very grateful.
Yeah, absolutely. They're
Yeah.
very supportive. It's
Yeah, they're amazing.
amazing. So I'm hoping to, move out eventually. But
Sure.
here, it's
Why not? I mean, get some help if it's there. Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So, have we talked about? Well, we talked about high school. What about education beyond high school for either of you?
So I went to a business school. And I actually, so I always kind of did business or like economics and artwork side by side in high school.
Okay.
And I kind of just took that forward in college. So I went to Bentley. I got myself a economics and finance degree, and I've
Wow.
been trying to use that to make sure that we stay on track.
Sure.
With paperwork and with all the registrations and everything as a company, because
So
I
you're
know
doing the
that
business dev
regardless.
stuff?
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure that everything is nice and clean and we don't have trouble with taxes and all the documents are sorted out and everything's registered so that when Apple comes and is like, okay, you need to have these accounts, these 5 different things set up, you can publish with us. Um, it's yeah, it's definitely like it's been getting more and more useful having that education. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I like to think that if I hadn't gone to a school like that, we probably wouldn't necessarily be trying to start our own company because it's strange. No matter what you start, you sort of reach certain milestones where you have to make decisions, business decisions that sort of let you move forward in a way that's
Mm-hmm.
sustainable. And sometimes it's difficult to make those when your specialty is just being. You can make amazing code and you can make amazing animations, but it's just you can be selling potatoes and still make a bad business decision sort of thing. So
No,
that's been very
absolutely.
useful. Yeah.
It's when you're starting out, it's hard to realize that business education is a huge advantage when you're an indie dev. It's a huge asset for any company, even if you're an artist or a programmer, or if you were just the music guy looking to go full time. That might be the tipping point to being able to have something else like I don't know. They call it a T-shaped skill set, right? Where you
Hmm.
have
Yeah.
like your main focus, but then you also have a couple things that you can tangent to if you need to, but you still have your specialty.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I still love making artwork, and I've always done it. But yeah, Shane got a little more of a formal education on
Yeah,
that
sort
particular
of
side
a
of things.
little. A little is a good description. Yeah, so I went to UMass Dartmouth for a little bit for art school, and was going to be a graphic designer at the time.
Okay.
And then I transferred to the School of Museum of Fine Arts, where I was doing film for a semester. And then I dropped out, and I became a videographer for a while. I was living in Boston, which was a pretty awesome experience. I got to
Was
like
that
meet.
freelancing?
Yeah, well, so I was working for a company called Apollos Media for a little while. I think
Okay.
it was about a year and a half, and then I was freelancing for a while. Um,
Cool.
so that was awesome. Met a
Yeah,
lot
he
of really
does.
cool people. I think probably my favorite gig I did was for the Boston Symphony Orchestra. So we
Wow.
did a documentary on. Uh, they did a concert that was sort of for like amateur musicians to come and play like a real symphony orchestra concert,
Nice.
and they got like a professional conductor. His Thomas Wilkins was his name. He's an amazing guy. So yeah, that was really cool experience.
I
I did
bet.
that for about 5 6 years, and I was learning to code and use Unity on the side. Um, and at some point, I just decided to come home and start working pretty seriously on this with Gorell and put everything into it. So
Yeah, while he was in Boston, we actually started making a different project that was just our first thing that we put together. And I
Cool.
never expected to make I don't know. It just video game artwork wasn't something that was in my spectrum before Shane kind of came forward and was like, "We could just do this, and we
So
can make these things."
sure. And then, like, what years would you say both of you picked up Unity? What, like, about?
let's see. It was probably, I guess it
6 years
was
ago?
2013, 2014.
Okay.
That sounds about right. Yeah, that sounds about right.
That's actually around the same time I picked it up, and I picked it up in 2013, and I
Wow,
started to
yeah.
get good in 2014 for sure.
I guess that
It's a
kind of
good
makes
program.
sense. Run into
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah, definitely, and it's awesome software. Obviously,
Yeah.
everyone knows that. We don't really need to talk too much about that.
But I mean, it
Uh,
was useful because we did go through a phase of choosing what to use, and Unity
sure.
just kind of sort of kept updating things that we needed as we realized we needed them. So that was a very bizarre situation where like we would go, oh, we actually should be using this program somehow, both of us coding on it or adding assets to it, and then like I think literally a few weeks later they came out with with the collaboration stuff.
They swooped in with the solution
Yeah,
before
so
you
that was
moved
kind of
somewhere else.
it was almost surreal the way that worked out, where we were like, okay, what works better with phones? Seems like Unity, and then we just kept realizing we need something, and they would just come out with it the next week. That was pretty
That's
strange.
that's great that it worked for you that way. For me, it was a little bit different. Everything was coming out right after I started with like what was no longer being used.
Oh
Oh,
man.
geez, yeah, we got lucky there. Every time it happened, I definitely was like, wow, that was lucky.
I'm still using a lot of the old methods for the 2D pixel art stuff because a lot of that stuff wasn't available when I started.
Yeah.
But I'm learning it for the next game for sure. All right, yeah. So, what kind of hobbies do you guys have outside of games? I know you both are artists and that type of thing. Any
Well,
like
games.
films or movies, games that you're
Um,
playing, but things outside of games
yeah,
too?
that's outside of games, yeah. I just make lots and lots of art. So I still make paintings and sculptures, and I draw here and there. I play some
Cool.
music, but I'm definitely not as good as our musician. He can string together poetry a lot better than I can. But yeah,
And what kind of
that's
sculpture? Not to cut you off. What kind of sculpture?
I guess the most recent thing I made were almost like D&D figures for
Oh, cool.
a group that we occasionally do, just
And then
because
what
it was
method
just
are
a
you
casual
using to
thing.
create the sculpture?
Oh, so those were made with like I think it's called Sculpey. It's like super Sculpey clay. A lot of
Okay.
artists use it to make dolls and things. So you
Yeah.
basically bake it. Because like I used to use a lot of the terracotta clay, which he'll kiln for, and I'm not really
Hmm.
sure there's that much of a benefit to doing that way.
It's more
Uh,
fragile then. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, terracotta. No, you're right. Terracotta, like if you use anything kiln fired, like 60% of the time, it's gonna just be lost somewhere in the process. Most of the work I did in high school was repairing old artwork and making sure that
Right.
its physics worked right, which was a lot of time. You could have just made it in a program and just animated it, sort of
Right,
thing.
right. But yeah, there's a certain feel for like, is it hand building or are you using tools and like what
Mostly
kind of
hands and tools.
sculptures?
Yeah, mostly hands
I
and tools. I used to make like chess sets. The latest sculptures I've made were basically like so like I made a snake, a basically coiled snake, a big bird, and like I wanted to make a RPG like role playing
Wow,
piglets. Like I wanted to make a pig that has like a hat and like a staff, and
that's
another pig
cool.
that
And
has
then are
like a
you painting
sword or
these?
something. Yeah, I'll paint them. A few of them been fired and stuff. But like just kind
Cool.
of a few figurines we can use for D&D. That's just the latest thing I made. The
Are
little
you
things like
active
that.
playing then? I take it.
Oh, not as often as I want. No, this was so a friend of ours. He goes to school in where was it? Where does Stan go? He goes to like Hawaii or something. I
Uh,
think it's
he goes.
Florida,
He's in
California,
California.
California.
He's in California. I think
And he
it's
comes back every
U.S.
once in a while.
USC.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where are you both located?
So we're
So
on Boston basically.
Boston.
yeah, we're
Cool.
around Boston.
Yeah.
This is probably
I'm in Phoenix myself.
cool.
Nice.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been very lucky to be in Boston. We found a lot of more connections in the last year. Just by interacting with developers in the city.
I've
Right.
heard actually on other podcasts that I listen to that there is a scene in Boston that it's not like super big or well known. It's not as big as Austin, but it's getting there, right?
It's healthy,
Yeah.
yeah. There's some
No,
really good people there.
yeah, if you would, the scene in Boston is great. There's a bunch of different groups. There's Boston Indies, Women in Gaming. There's a group called the IGC.
Retrospective.
Uh, yeah, there's
That's a
a
lot of stuff to get involved in.
yeah, they all
Yeah.
come together a lot. I think it's I don't know. I would say the community is about 2,000 people if they all come together. But it's they do a meeting every month, sometimes multiple times a month. They do talks on Unity. They're awesome people. So if you're around the area,
That's awesome. I'm sure you get hundreds of people together then for like that type of stuff.
yeah, I think it's usually I would say each event is probably 40, 50 people.
40, 50. That's still great. You know, in Phoenix, it's hard to get more than 15, 20 people sometimes.
Oh,
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, Boston's nice and close together, so I think that helps a lot.
you've been looking
Yeah,
at that
yeah.
too.
Cool. And then Shane, how about your hobbies?
Yeah, so Curl mentioned I used to do parkour. That's probably the strangest hobby I had.
You used to,
You're
you don't
good
do
at
it
it.
anymore?
I mean, I could still, I could still do a flip here and there if,
You haven't lost
if
it.
I was asked to. Yeah, I
You're
think.
being asked
I mean,
to do it right now. We won't see it. But, no, I'm just kidding.
yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I think I'm not particularly old, but I'm 27, and for parkour athletes, I think would know that over time your knees and your ankles get a little, you want to keep them. So
Sure.
yeah, I don't do it as often. I'll jump over something, right up something every now and then for fun.
I can't blame you there.
But yeah, so there's a few videos of that out there. I was also a videographer for a while, which I mentioned.
Sure.
I've got there's actually a movie I made right before Raven's Path. It's called Dead City Rocker.
Oh, cool.
So if anyone wants to check that out, it's
And what kind of success did you see with that?
I would say it's very unknown. Probably
Okay.
it's a full feature length film. It's about a homeless guy named Sid. We followed him for actually it was 2 years, but it's kind of edited to seem like 1 year.
So a documentary?
Yeah, it's a documentary. It's a bit of a strange documentary. It's like kind of like a slice of life thing.
It's very powerful.
Yeah,
Sounds
thanks.
like it. It sounds
yeah,
a little
definitely.
intimidating and scary.
Yeah, it's not happy-go-lucky, but if you're interested in something like that, then you should definitely check it out.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll have to take a look at it. I don't know if I'll be able to do the whole thing. You know, there's a lot of homeless people out here. It's hard to really even to get into it. I couldn't imagine making a film about it for 2 years.
Yeah, that was.
Talk to a lot of people. Yeah.
I didn't expect to be doing that either. Actually, I think, but I don't know. There's something curious about it to me. So
It sounds like you have a passion for it for sure. At least for filmmaking and being a documentarian.
yeah, no, I mean it was cool to see the different side of life. It's can be a very rough side of life, and we really wanted to know more about the psychology of it. It's not like not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's not a go help the homeless film. It's more what is it like?
Okay.
So yeah.
So the realities of life on the streets, kind of thing.
Yeah, and just very raw and yeah.
Wow. Cool. I'll have to take a look. What was the title again?
It's a Dead City Rocker.
Dead City Rocker. Okay. Cool. I'll have to take a look at that. I'll let you know what I think in Discord.
Awesome. Please do.
Yeah. Yeah. So that covers your hobbies. And we talked a little bit about games that you both play. But let's go a little bit deeper into like what your favorite games were growing up. Maybe like outside of video games, even just like physical games, perhaps, or anything like that. What kind of brought you to games, and what were your favorites?
Yeah. So I played a lot of stuff growing up. We had it was a 386. It was really, it had a 10-inch floppy drive.
Okay.
Old computer. I think I played Diablo 1 on that or something later. But so I played a lot of dark games and a lot of Nintendo games, Zelda, Mario, I really liked RPGs. I think Gauntlet Legends was probably one of the earlier co-op RPGs I played.
The one for Nintendo 64, or
yeah, exactly. I actually ran into that in an arcade. Yeah.
There's a cab near me that I play every once in a while.
Oh, you still? There's still a. That's awesome.
Yeah, there's actually a few barcades in Phoenix. It's a very cool scene.
Wow, I wish we had more of those in Boston, but maybe we will soon. Who knows?
I think you will. It's picking up totally.
Good. Yeah. So yeah, I'd say it was a lot of Nintendo games.
So fantasy then?
Yeah, I think fantasy is probably mostly what I was into, and I really liked RPGs and action games.
What kind of action games?
I love DMC, Devil May Cry.
Yeah, that's a gem.
Yeah,
okay, now which Devil May Cry was your favorite so far?
Fourth? Is that right?
I mean,
Second?
one is a classic. When I was a kid, obviously that was my favorite. I think I skipped over 2, 3, 4. I played 3 at some point way later, which is great. But I think honestly, my favorite is and this might be controversial, but the Ninja Theory one, the reboot, the one labeled DMC.
I don't know if I'm familiar with that one, honestly.
Yeah, they do a really good job in that one of allowing you to maneuver your character, basically pull things towards you or you towards them, very, very, very well.
So
like
is
the movement in that game is wonderful.
Is that a reboot of the first one then?
Not really. It's actually a different company picked it up, and they have like a younger Dante.
It's a prequel.
Yeah, it's technically a prequel, I guess. It's a bit of a different universe. Not exactly the same canon, but it's designed to be sort of the same canon.
Yeah, they joke at it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right on. And then Carol, what are your games, Carol?
So I went through a weird experience with games when I was younger because my parents really, it's strange. Like, so I grew up in Bulgaria, which is Eastern Europe. So when I was younger, games for me were basically DOS games that you could kind of scrounge together on a computer.
Sure.
And like my uncle gave me like a CD with like 300, 400 DOS games that you play. And like that was like Prince of Persia, Suplex, Red. I think I played Dune at one point through there. And then when I moved to America,
Doom or Dune?
Dune, like the old Dune,
okay.
like the first thing that inspired was it Contra? Like the top down like real time strategy type of games.
Command and Conquer.
That's right. That was Command. Yeah. So it was the original Command and Conquer approach, which was very strange to see. And
based off Frank Herbert's novel, the Dune.
Yeah, good book.
Series, yeah.
Very, very good books those are. And then when I came to America, I sort of literally just skipped a bunch of generations and then started with the PlayStation 2 because my parents didn't really want me to spend money on games and they didn't want to spend money on games either. So like I scrounged together, I bought myself a PS2, which
was this when it first came out?
No, actually, this was when Kingdom Hearts 2 was a thing. So this was pretty late in it.
When it was slim and they dropped the price, I think that's when I grabbed mine.
Yeah, just about the time when it got slim, it had a very good library. And I literally got like
hookup.
Oh yeah, it was
you didn't
wonderful.
Have to pay $100 for that.
Yeah, I mean it's strange. Like I remember trying to choose what to get, and the PlayStation just kind of appealed to me with its just darker colors and like just it's more like it just looks more professional in my opinion. I'm very biased that way, but I sort of jumped into Kingdom Hearts 2, GTA, like the San Andreas, Jack and Daxter, I mean, Psychonauts, stuff like that. Like, so I immediately had like this massive library of games that I just sort of like dove into left and right. But by then I kind of leaned pretty heavy into strategy games. I like to think that Shane seems like he loves things that are physical, like where things punch and you can jump and you can like have a character that you smash around. Yeah. I like Civilization. There's this series called Heroes of Might and Magic. With the horses running around. I just like that strategy stuff. And then past that, I kind of always merged artwork into games. And I remember playing Monkey Island.
Okay.
and just getting vigorously stuck in it. And I actually made a replica of the city that I was stuck in, like in the first part of Monkey Island, where you're just like,
Wow.
I forget what it was, but I made like a whole like mini city because I was a kid and I really liked the game and I didn't have internet to figure it out because like back then you didn't just Google walkthroughs.
That's
So I just sort
impressive,
of
though.
obsessed about it. I just obsessed about it anyway. But yeah, and nowadays we're kind of playing Rocket League
Oh
Okay.
yeah,
stuff.
we,
Yeah, like
yeah,
Mordhau, Rocket League. We've been Rocket Leaguing quite a bit recently.
Dark
And like
Souls.
a lot of Dark Souls we just replayed through
Yeah.
that, and I'm playing like Outer Worlds, which is like, a bit more stuff like that. But I get
Now
my strategy fix from the old games.
is that DS1 that you guys are playing, or DS3, or what Dark
We're
Souls are you
playing.
talking?
3,
Yeah, we
Okay.
both played
the
1,
third one.
2, but right now we're
Yeah,
playing through 3.
Ah, okay.
yeah.
Cool. And then I did not ask earlier, are you like in-house or are you mostly remote? How is it all coming together?
Oh, so I live. So I mean, like, so Shane has his house, and I basically have my place, and we
Sure.
used to meet up more in person every week, which
Yeah.
really helped keep things like it helped me stay sane. That's for sure. Because
Uh-huh.
when you're making a game alone, it's just difficult sometimes to just not be in
Absolutely.
your own head, you know. Um, so we sort of used to meet up once a week, but nowadays I was able to get myself a nice, powerful computer, so we're doing more like remote. But we still meet up. We're just 30 minutes away, which is very convenient sometimes.
Cool. So you
Yeah.
guys actually do a lot of the development through the Discord then, I take it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
now we do a ton of
Now we
stuff.
do.
Word.
Cool.
Yeah. Definitely.
That's really awesome that you're capable of doing that. But then also you're still close enough together where if you need to, you can say, "Hey, take a look at this code," or "Hey, I just want someone to reality check with," you know?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
absolutely.
surprising how important that is. Yeah.
Right.
Just like touching base with someone human that goes like, "This is going fine. Don't freak out." Sort of
Yeah.
thing.
What I
Helps me
wouldn't
at
give
least.
for that.
Yeah, it's crazy
Well,
because like
hey,
some yeah,
that's what our
stay strong,
server's
my
for,
friend.
right? Or your
Right.
server.
It
Yeah.
Right.
helps.
No, all of my stuff is all online. It'd be nice to have more people around me. I mean, I have close circles, but there's just not a big
Yeah.
enough scene out here, and everyone's doing their own thing. Everyone's pretty busy.
Yeah, we know a
Yeah.
few people like that who are very skilled and they do a good job, but it's just the spot they're in, it's a little harder to like access a community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's awesome that it's working great for you guys. I mean, you're still pretty young. You're still, fresh into the indie scene. It seems like. Is this both of your guys' first commercial release?
Yeah, first true
Yeah.
finished game. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
For
definitely.
the company, yeah. Which is
Cool.
great.
Cool.
That's a great feeling. That's not,
Very
that's
exciting.
definitely worth being proud of.
And how much research did you guys do before you started this project?
Beforehand, it was a lot of like learning techniques, and along the way, we've done a ton of research on marketing. We have somebody helping us who's a consultant who's done a
Yeah.
lot of marketing.
Is that for a consultant for hire or someone that's just helping?
No, they're just again the community
Just
in
an
Boston
angel.
is just amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
like
Just a really good soul.
yeah,
That's really awesome. Yeah, not everyone has access to that. So yeah, count your blessings for sure. That's awesome stuff.
Yeah.
yeah. Really, it's been having connections with them has been crazy. So
That's awesome. Really good stuff.
yeah,
Yeah, we did have to learn a lot of the like the softwares that we use. We adjusted a few times. And sometimes you kind of have to take a look at the process that you're doing and try to just be fair about like the spots where you're just wasting time. And you can probably do something to improve those. We had a lot of stages where we just kind of were like, why are we doing these things this way? Like I used to manually import every frame of an animation. Like it was
Oh
just
wow.
knowledge. Yeah. So like just gaining knowledge really helped here and there. And we always kind of kept learning and we're still doing the same thing. Like it just never ends.
So now that you've been doing this for a while, what tools are you using for the art particularly?
so we're using a very old version of Photoshop. I don't even
Okay.
know what number. And then we've got a script that we got off somebody. I wish I could reference them. It's a great script. It helps you export things. We were
For
using
sprite
that.
sheets?
Yeah, we're using that at some point for sprite sheets. But we've actually transitioned into doing like a video export of all the
Wow.
frames.
Less clicks.
Yeah, and then Unity, obviously.
What was it called? I missed it.
Oh
not Netflix.
no,
but
he just said less.
Oh no, I'm
it's
saying
less
it was
clicks.
less. Yeah,
Oh,
it ended
there's
up being
less
less
clicks.
clicks.
Less
Much less
clicks
clicks
is
to do
better.
that
Someone should
process.
make
Yeah.
some software called Less Clicks. No.
Yeah,
That would sell. That's good marketing.
it's a good name.
It's a good name.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack the conversation.
No.
Yeah.
And then we're using it's called Colorify off the Unity Asset Store.
Oh, I've never heard of that.
It's what we use to change all the. It's just it's a shader pack. It allows you to change colors, like key colors, and change them. It's useful. You can obviously write your own shader for it, but it's a little bit more optimized, and there's a lot of.
So, is
shaders
it
in
like palette swapping and stuff like that?
Right. So the units, I'm sure
Yeah.
you noticed they come out at different colors, and there's different teams and stuff for the enemies. So Krill actually, I don't know if you want, Krill, you want to talk about the keying?
Yeah. So it's basically, it works almost like a green screen where you more or less pick a few places, like you pick 2 or 3 spots that you want to have color change, and you have to use a very aggressive specific color, so that's very different from the rest of it. And that took a whole lot of. It basically took redoing all the units to an extent, like touching every single frame. And just to say quickly, so we have death animations, attack animations, and walking animations. And they're basically 8 frames, 13 frames, 13 frames, front, back each. So it ended up being a whole lot of artwork that we more or less had to fine tune into. But in the end, we got it to work pretty good. And this was a design decision that we had to make because all the units were so thoroughly customizable. Like you could literally make a healer, you start shooting fire in a certain way. And so you have to identify between your 2 different healers. And we had to have some sort of tool in there that lets the player just like have different looking units.
Wow. And then
Also,
how
it's
much
nice to
was
have
that
a gold
asset?
dragon in it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It was $5. Was it $5?
Oh,
I think
wow,
it
that's really cheap.
Was it 5 or 15? Yeah, very cheap. It was
Very
totally
cheap.
inconsequential for
Yeah.
a lot of work. I mean, it's a great
Rest of the
great
meal,
thing to
yeah.
have if you need.
And
color
then how
changing.
was the usability of the asset? I know sometimes it varies.
I mean,
it took fine tuning. Like it took us really fine tuning our assets so it works.
Yeah, I would say the asset itself though is exactly what you would expect. It
A
has
little bit of a learning curve, though.
no. I mean, I think what you're talking
From our
about, Krill,
side.
is more. It's not related to the asset though. The asset.
Yeah.
It's very simple. It's a shader pack. So you put a shader on something. You can pick a color. It has adjustments for the threshold of that color, and then you pick a color that you change it to.
Okay, that replaces it with nice.
Very
That's actually
simple, but-
super useful. But then
Yeah.
you just had to figure out how you wanted to use it, and the best
Yeah, I
way you
mean,
could.
You have to Krill had to pick like a violet pink and a violet green, and redraw every unit with different shades of that on every frame.
Yeah,
so
so
that was very
basically-
difficult.
Yeah, so you
Wow.
basically had to pick a custom color that was keyed for each unit. So like if you go with pink, you can't have a unit that has too much skin color or something like that. So you can't use reds. And you really have to keep an eye on what you're using. Because like for example, a knight just has a few shades of blue, so it's much easier to key that as opposed to like a legendary unit that has like almost a whole rainbow of colors.
Wow.
And you kind of have to find something that does not affect the rest of the unit. And that ended up being different for every single unit, which wasn't something I expected, but it sort of had to be dealt with.
It sounds like
The
you
effect
learned a
was nice.
lot, like using that
yeah.
tool.
Yeah,
When you're like a little bit more relaxed post launch, and you've done some of your major patches or anything that needs to be done, maybe you could put together a tutorial teaching people how to use that, and they might find it interesting.
Yeah,
That'd be
no,
cool.
that might be a great idea actually.
Like
because it was useful. It did what it was supposed to. Yeah, it was useful.
But it sounds like you found some uses for it that maybe weren't available right out of the box, kind of thing.
I don't know. Maybe I don't know about that, but I think mainly what would be. I think you're right that the redoing the animation stuff may be how to get it to work perfectly.
Yeah, I think that would be interesting because it sounds like it was time consuming and something that you might not think would be the answer right off the bat, but it sounds like it worked well.
Yeah, we sort of picked it up when all the artwork wasn't finished, so it was a case where like there was some of it that was done, but the rest still had work to be done. So it
Sure.
did fit okay at the time. It wasn't like an entire redo.
Cool. Yeah, I mean that's a
which was
huge
good.
difference.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, do you have any tips that you would have given yourself like 3-5 years ago, maybe?
Oh man.
Scale back so much more. So
Yeah.
much more.
So the original
Even in this
scale.
particular project?
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think
certain pieces of it.
we're happy with like the size, obviously at this point.
Uh-huh.
But we would have loved to maybe release it a little bit earlier and get reactions, and then add some of the other stuff later. But we kind of, we're glad we have buildings in there. We're glad we have extra skills in there and stuff. It's
Yeah.
great to have.
We haven't really talked about anything that you've cut from the project.
Oh yeah. So okay, I mean the original scale was 400
400
units,
Yeah.
10 civilizations. So we very quickly, let's do London, Britain, like English civilization, and
Yeah, the Ottoman
do
empires
40
and like Mongolians. Yeah.
40 units,
Wow.
and then we had a whole plan for online play, which
Okay.
we love to have.
Yep.
But
So there's a lot that got cut actually then.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
those
yeah.
are the yeah. I mean, the online play, we wanted to kind of have a system where you have defenders and attackers, and it sounded really good on paper, but it would have just taken a lot of effort, and we needed to see what the community was like. Which again, we could maybe work on something, but that yeah, it just sort of depends on how things go.
I think that's probably the feature that we would add if we had resources to do that in the future. The idea was to have people upload defending armies and then have people attack those armies, almost like you're making a level for somebody else. Similar to like Dreams or Little Big Planet in the way that they share pre-made stuff, and then you would get rewards for beating levels. Maybe we'd have rank stuff, and there'd be 2 ladders. So there'd be a ladder for offense and a ladder for defense. And yeah, that was the general idea. And we'd still love to do that, but there needs to be a community for it. We need to be sure that it's something we can.
Sure. Yeah, it sounds like something that'd be great for a Kickstarter or like a sequel or something of that nature.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Now, is there anything else that you guys want to like bring to the table? Like any other projects you're working on, or any shout outs that you want, or any things you want to plug other than the game release on May 5th?
Yeah, I mean, Raven's Path's coming to Android and iOS on May 5th. So that's that's the big one.
Exciting.
You guys got Discord, which is awesome.
Yeah. Absolutely join our Discord if you're listening.
And you're both on Twitter.
Yep.
Yeah, you
Twitter,
can contact us.
Facebook,
on Instagram.
How can we follow you on Twitter?
So it's at Evil Villain Games. There's actually only one I in that. So, but if you search Evil Villain Games Twitter, or you go to our website, you'll find it. There's even actually going to be links in the game when it comes out.
Okay. Cool. So Evil Villain Games. That should be simple enough. Search for Evil Villain Games, everyone. Follow them. Check out the trailers, and definitely join the Discord. Super cool project. I'm super excited.
Hey, hell yeah, man! I can't wait for you to play it. And more.
Yeah, I mean the beta was amazing. So the final release is going to be great. I know it already.
Yeah, we've got.
I'm not even sure. I think buildings weren't a part of the beta at that point. I think.
No, there was a few buildings. I don't think all the buildings in there.
Mostly we've done like some nice UI updates and a little bit of the controls we modified. Also, if I'm going to do shout outs, I'd say Boston Indies. Definitely go check them out if you're around the Boston area. They're awesome.
Now, how do we know more about Boston Indies? Is there a website or?
Yeah, you go on Google, search Boston Indies. There's a meetup page they have. It has all their events. There's one every month. They have a Slack. They've got a Twitter. Yeah, those are all Boston Indies. And
so
then,
if you're in Boston,
really good
check
people.
out Boston Indies.
Absolutely, yeah. they're wonderful people. And then
Cool.
I also want to give Indie Dev World Order a shout out.
Awesome.
Which, yeah, you're a part of, and we're a part of.
Yeah.
Great community.
Just a bunch of cool
really
folks.
And then, yeah, I guess that's it.
Cool. Well, I really want to thank you guys for coming on and being interviewed, telling us about your game. I want to thank you for making a great game because that's awesome. And and eventually, I either want you guys to come back on at like post release and talk a little bit more, or that type of thing. Have you back on, and then even share updates as the podcast progresses. I'll try to do little blurbs about the game as well, so the viewers can keep up with you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool, guys. Well, thanks so much, and I guess we'll call it a day.
Perfect. All right.
It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have a good one. See ya. Bye. Okay, thanks everyone for listening. I know it was a little bit of a long podcast, but ton of information there. Very cool stuff from Evil Villain Games. Check out Raven's Path, and have a great day. Take care.